Dewa Shepa Jiten Kempa Kibu Due Kalo Yuba Lana Lada Menange Tamba Zange Chomdende Pega
Washaja
Tubala Chazelo Cheto Kyasu Chia Wa Tamba Chomdende Teshi Rajomba Yanda Ba Sobe Vipada Jazu Tamba Dewa Shepa Jiten Kibu Due Kalo Yuba Lana Lada Minange Tomba Sange Chomdende Pagawash Tupala Chaselo Chodo Kyasu Chia Atumba Chomdende Teji Shapata Chom Yanda Pasobe Sange Vipatan Shasu Temba Tewash Jidin Kimba Kibutu Kalo Kyu Lana Mepa Lada Minange Tomba Sange Chomdende Shagya Tupala Chaselo Chodo Chia Wai Kanze Kanye So Kyotanse Sachin de la Combat Tumbon Ani Jiten Dina Choje Sun Deje Gyaba Gyala Cha Selo Namda Kunga Chotu Susan Ishi Gyazo Sege Lumbota Chiba Jiten Sun Amewa Kombo Choni Gyala Cha Senjo Demba Dime Davisha Seto Trawa Gyala Cha Tude Gyuda Sipa Sumachi Nyame Kenjin Gyala Cha Zelo Kombo Tuji Tamche Gembe Tumba Po Suna Yundin Gyazo Tejin Shala Cha Zelo Tabe Tuja Tawa Giving and Zonle Tujin Chitu Tundan Chojo Shigyu Jula Cha Zelo Tune Tue Lanyan Rabadala Raptune Shinge Tamba Yunden Kindun Layan Cha Zelo Tipachi Amicha Gyawa Bunsun Soba Che Rangi Semni Yonsu Tu Tini Sangye Temba Kamara Re Mametan Gyuma Seba Chubut Miran Lodan Dindabu Tujijun Titata Sunan Di Tamje Ziba Goban Tomni Kyungi Tatu Te Kadanadan Chiwe Laptu Ibezole Drowato I prostrate to the three noble rare sublime ones. Did I hear one time the Bhagavan was dwelling on massive Archer's Mount Rajagriha together with a great community of monks and a great community of Buddhists. At that time, the Bhagavan was absorbed in the concentration on the categories of phenomena, profound perception. Also, at that time, the Bodhisattva Mahasaya Avalokiteshvara looked upon the very profound perfection of wisdom and beheld the aggregates also as empty. Then through the power of Buddha, the venerable Shariputra said this to Bodhisattva Mahasaya Avalokiteshvara. How should any son of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the profound wisdom? He said that the Bodhisattva Mahasaya Avalokiteshvara said this to the venerable Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wish to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom should look upon it directly and repeatedly, beholding those aggregates of soul as empty of form is empty, emptiness is all, emptiness is not other than form is also other than empty. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, composition of factors and consciousness are Shariputra, likewise all phenomena are emptiness without character, unproduced, unsustained, not without stain, not deficient of the Shariputra. Therefore, in emptiness there is no form, no discrimination, no composition, no factors, no conscious, no sight, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object, and no phenomenon. There is no I element, and so on, up to and include mind element and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance. So on up to and including no aging and death and no extinction of aging, and similarly there is no suffering, origination, cessation. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no normal. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in the perfection. The mind without obscuration and without fear, having completely passed beyond error, they reach the end point of no. For the Buddhas who dwell in the three times also manifestly completely awakened, unsurpassable, perfect, complete, enlightened, in reliance on the perfection of. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequal, the mantra that thoroughly passes suffering should be known as true sincerity. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared Tayata Om Kati Kati Para Sangati Buddhi Sohai. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva should train in the profound wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from that concentration and commended the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvaras. Was a son of the lineage. It is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom, just as you have indicated. Even the Tathagatas reached the Bhagavan, having thus spoken, the Venerable Sharitati Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, and those surrounding in their entire, with the world of gods, humans, asuras, and overjoyed and highly praised as spoken by Bhagavan. Kangi Tenshin Dawa Jun Kappa Yemeba Jeba Meba Tameba Wawa Meba Trome Tade Dumin Dunji Mitraba Nyeji Shidem Sobe Zangi Manangi Tamba Tel Chaselo Niente Shewa Sunan Kunji Niki Nishi Tizi Kanyi Tola Pemba Jenam Lamshi Niki Chitin Dundu Zepak Kandayanda Dembe Tubna Namba Kunde Naso Tisum Into Janju Zembe Soje Sangi Gini Yum Dela Chase
Sanje Chodan
Soge Chonam La Janju Patu Dani Katsu Dagi Jungi Zonangi Dola Penje Zang Drupara Sho
Sanje Chodan
Soge Chonam La Janju Patu Dani Katsu Dagi Jungi Zonangi Dola Penje Zang Drupara Sho
Sanje Chodan
Soge Janam La Janju Patu Tani Katsu Dagi Jingi Bisonang Rola Penje Sangen Drupara Shu
Kangi Tuze Nyasune Dawa Tamje Pambe Chir Tabe Chen Denze Kodam de la Chace Pumbu Chashe Sene Ene Pa Kavati Tendi Shibi Tombares Jermuti Dene Sunguduas Ni Kazanji Shuyimba
No.
Kazan Shude O Di Jermuti Kava Sungu Yomenti Lungji the Trin Shira Hameza Jingdena Sungi
No.
And the Jermuti Sung Turbuna ene kunjo chudum damba sajdu 신이 군조 추르는 담바치 임브레 어 디난들이야 인 숨토부 난들 데스도가 대치를 뭐본남라 유다 두에 체슬나 강도야 다 율다 두세도 고주도와 어 수쟁용 뭐부터서 율다 초다 데스 차시스야 여다와 다 수제 마임바 셈라 소버도죠 ene 둘이야 세바마도 차시 신다 세야메가 유다 두세 니 순과 유체 유다 두 차시 슬나 강두양 송사민두 냐메 고와 깨바 잠라 동반이기 따와 녀버 조나 장바 잠 마체베 왕부 신두 뚫비강 또버 누베 가웨 되메강 대점기 미초기스.
So I mentioned a quote from Rinpoche the other night, which started off by saying, talking about eliminating the parts of the aggregates, a quote that went something like that. But anyway, I found the passage. So I found the passage in the Lama Tsongkhapa's works. It's in the text, which is called I can't remember how we usually that, but anyway, I think I tried before with something like teachings that are given here and there and then brought together, like miscellaneous teachings brought together. So anyway, this is one which is called so advice to Kunjo Sutrim. So there, what he says is that when you look for things in the you don't do okay. So when you look in the things and in time, it goes something like that. The point is that when it's the first word, yul, that would be like usually like object. So that's referring to things like physical forms that you can look in their parts, their particles, in the sense of their particles. So gross forms can be looked for in their right down to the particles. And then in the case of something which is not physical, like the mind, so you can't break it down into particles, but you can break it down into shorter moments. So what he says is that simply not being able to find the object in its parts like that isn't realizing, isn't understanding the emptiness of the object. Because if that were the case, then actually this is something which even those of quite dull faculties can quite readily realize. Die only the topalati digma, there isn't a digma. It's got no
tubu tuzuiga chashe da tusene niameva hakuduas.
No. Yeah, that's right. No.
Jambatam machebe wambu shindu tubiga tobar nube kawe temegang tezamji michokis. Da kechewo karasna yango delay sungudu ten tambar mikde tamje never shiwas. Ten tambar mikde tamje never shiwas. Di sanga nyingme gang sungu yore. 심해 자들 세 단위씩 따는 거 동안 상하 닝맥이 치지나 심해 자들 심해스나 시대 다고지 대속이 시대 짠 말아봐 엔 자와네 차봐 심해 자들 따나 든 심해 자들 세트데 여기서 여줘야 배주 따나 여래 따나 시자탑이 추기 내루디나 직송여래 다바이나 고 디레 세는 무슨 근데 판하는 내용에 자는 매바인자 시사철와 어들 시사차와들 상하님에게 얘네 심해 자들스 어 숨도와 어 디인도 어 간다 배제나나 단대 배제나는 내마 쉬어 숨토비는데 된담벌 밑에 탐제 녀월 시와당스 된담벌 밑에 탐제 녀월 신내다 랑원 주바 두자 매바강 다 배제나 군조 유마더불라 콘데기 남샤 탐제 캐랑베 초베 니조 데가웨 동반이 또가와 이나스 대연 담발 미대 탐제 내 양조로 되기다 대연 담발 미대 탐제 녀월 시와 당스 동조티체 다 낭조 군조 유마더불라 콘데기 남샤 탐제 캐랑베 초베 니조 데가웨 동반이 또가와 또버가와 이나스
지독이 가더라. 지독이. So he goes on to say, so having made the point that just that isn't realizing suchness, emptiness, because even somebody of very dull, dull intellect, you don't have to be really sharp to be able to look for the thing in the particles or the short moments of time and not be able to find it. So what's the difficult point is having completely pacified all the apprehended objects, ultimately existing apprehended objects of the true grasping mind, and then and then after the meditation, within that understanding of how nothing, not even a particle of inherent existence can be found, or existence from its own side can be found, still everything is it functions well, is completely viable, just like illusions. That's the thing which is difficult. And this is actually this is also something which is recognized in the Nyingma tradition, because they have this this expression shimetsadral. So like so
근데 밑에 탐지 식세디 상한 님매장 누구여레스 심해 자절스 직도 표주 땅도 왔어 심해 자절 셰바디 겨계산 자조야 숭구른 하나 표주 땅난도 왔어 땅에 참아 신민도 땅나 시자타베 취기 내루디 수요.
So anyway, this one where it was talking about the on the side of the emptiness, having completely pacified all the objects of the true grasping, the ultimate existence, which is the object of true grasping, which is the empty side, and then after the meditation, being able to see how even though things don't have an atom of existence, but from their own side, still everything kind of works and is viable, functioned and is viable. So actually, even though they have a different term in the Nyingma tradition, they do say the same thing. So Shimin-sadra is something like, literally it would be like no basis. So that same thing which is was referred to here in Lama Tsongkhapa's work as pacifying all of the object, the objects of the true grasping, basically is what it means. They say shimesadel, so that's no basis or no foundation, and free of a root, sadel.
No.
It comes down to saying doesn't even have an atom of existence from its own side, and this phrase is also was also used in Gyalgas and Gyatso, the seventh Dalai Lama's song of the view.
That Jermuche Lamrim Cheme Lamrim Hando Cheme Nalaya Josette that Tibuchiganchi duas teaching at Labinas.
And exactly the same topic comes up in Jeremy's the special insight section in the great exposition of the stages of the path. So I'm going to talk about that now.
Shanyang's that contention that you sung Yuljetis, Yuljet, Ripe Silvanas, Chashepa Silvanas, Ripe Silvana, Mindu Nyamba Tambo Jungshin. Tene that Junkan Riba Koran Sungu Yusre, Tene Junkan Layang, Tetan Rava Tone, Chashi Sena, Mindu Sachi, Tetan Rava Tone, Meper, Neken Yang, Yoba Mimbe, Kanla Yang, Di Dimayingi, Neba Chasa Meber Sone, Nawa Pimpu to Sone, Nawa Charwa Yang, Sene, Nawa Pimpu sing the Jutus Meber, Nisun Chesa Meber, Kogu Yonder. Rangshin, that the Karikan Resna, Rangshin Yome Tang, Yome Machevar, Rigbe Tamche Kabala Dene, Chunga Yimbe, Tende Tongbayang, Tende Shibe Tongba Yinlas. The Rangshin Yome, the Yomegi Kabar Machevegi, and Tusche, that Niamindu Samatiris, T, and Tende Shibe Tongba Chagres, the Rangune, and Trubda Madu Java Chebe, Jilu Tedardu Chene, and Zaning Mabachi Chesona, and Rangon to Gaba, the Tataris. The Mado, the Amar, that Niamindu some, the Chena, the don't worry, the Ranshi Yumeta, Yumegi, Zamnigi, Kabar Machavi, the Ship Tombares. This
Rangani to be the UTT, Sevres.
Rangun. You rang a truba, you do them in do some Chashi Khan, they never married. Chita Tiamar, Tamindu said, Maris, or the Ranshi Yumeta, you met some Kabar Macheve, and there is the issue with Thomas. So,
you could not do some they will see them. But then we knew what you pull Jenny knew you need to children, you need to rock. That children, the Rangshin one year was the Hammer, Rangshin never did.
That married the next Sunday. Oh, nothing in the Tagan Yemindo, Kambegan Yemindo, that Chashi Kanen, nothing in the Yamindo, Namiduas, or teach anything the Shibares. That Rangu Tube, you think the Rangu Tubachi, Kabadugas, that 7 Rangu Tuba, anything near American, the Tataris, the Imbetati, Karadusana, Tindi Shibe, Tomba Yinla, Tena, Tetobe Tambe, now a Pimbu Shavaya, you must have 10 mino. Tena ribe number cheba nas. Kansa la sopa rangi mui trube. You think to do so say jam into Yamatas. Sne on tishudi. This sumudonga. That the Jim Chasha.
So there, what Jeremy says is simply looking for the object amongst all of its parts, and not, so you part by part you'll think like this is not that object, this is not the object, this is not the object, and then at the end of that coming to the conclusion the object doesn't exist, and then turning that onto oneself, the analyzer, and then coming to the conclusion also the one that's analyzing oneself, one who's analyzing is also is non-existent. So so then it's like we talk about this sort of vague appearance where it's difficult to really point anything out. You can't really say exists or non-exist. It's non-existent. So this is so that kind of vague appearance. That's not what is meant by understanding the selflessness, because that actually that then you end up with running the risk of concluding that the conventional object doesn't exist at all. So the phrase is used is there's the risk of destroying conventionalities. So that's not the point. The point is, Jeremy says, the point is, or in other words, what you do need to do is look for an object existing from its own side in all of the parts. And then when you don't find that, then that's exactly, you know, discovering the emptiness of the object. So we go ahead with the text. No. So we're on verse 20, where it says, this may all have evolved from not knowing the proper use of conventions by some wanting in erudition. I think it's better to say actually more like what it says in Tibetan is by some who have not studied enough. I mean no study the great texts enough. I mean no respect, so do forgive me if I have caused offense. Sorry.
That 니 시디 시라냐 모두가 다 가르쳤으나 가장 사자레 닝마레 가주레 디마임바 어두체네 좀 두서 가리나스네 시라직 송차르와 따디 사자까바 닝마까바 가주까바 틴데르베스나 디마레스 아니 사자닝마 가주기 젠당 알아봐다 아니 치러봐 카지기 아니 지다 숭수 카시에디 칸데지를 양문진 난게 연하성 두스체네 티리우스 게제티리우스 이내야 캐나조 따와마도버레 냠내 요마르 텐데 랍투고 마레 슝첨볼이야 아니 시다 종달메베 슝기 츠신데스 숭당 데스 마르마텐데 동당 모델 또바 퉁데요네야 셰네 마숭야다 베제나를 조자 거윤두 타니 주주기 야틴데기 슝부츠싱 타니 마케마텐데야 인신도 커버 팅자 나케난 솔리야 엔 마쿠부잔 메스 고 체자를 마쿠말라스 따띠 빼미시비트레 정고를 저기 야네 양도 깐는 거래 강사라 타나 존스 쳬라 제바체스 디제네 단덴디 타가란도가 에는 강사 투수 강가를 고바 요버체 콩기 숭샤베 대단디기 숭샤베 슝시텔이야 에네 지다 타니 주수 민다민다 또또스 여버들 딘데체나 견디 용고도 딘데체니 견디스 용고도 도스인스 에네 포도 총나네 에네 서버샤라나스
This is really very nice, I think, because previously the author was kind of like saying, I wonder what those masters, those scholars are thinking about, what they're really talking about, those the Sakyapas, Nyingma, Gagyu, and others. So what he's saying here is, I'm not refuting the Sakya assertions. I'm not refuting the Nyingmapas or the Kagyus and so forth. That's not what I'm doing. I'm simply asking, what is it that they're talking about? And so what I'm saying is that, so I'm not saying that they have no realization of the view. I'm not saying that they don't have any practice. What I'm saying is that maybe because of not having studied the great treatises widely enough, then there could be some kind of mistake in the way the terms have been used. So I think this is very good. The way that he's put this, very, very nice. And this is actually very much like His Holiness the Dalai Lama says. You might have heard him say that one should try to have a pure perception of the person, but the Dharma they teach, you need to check, you need to analyze. And so that's what he's done here, because you see what can happen is that when you look at the way they explain things, even though they might have, complete all the realizations, but the way they express it, there could be mistakes. And so you can point out, look, actually, if you put it that way, then there's this kind of inconsistency and so on. And so then he ends up saying, so that's what I've been doing. And But if I've caused any offense, then, please forgive me, because I mean no disrespect. I do respect you, but so sorry.
gengi kingre manzo sere ijana sere che jizumbe ijena parjing diwaliya rongti banare siyorwa rongti banar ta tinnanga chimborre do 문제는 군요rumden 가르는 change yorba rumden 막 change 용거로 봐 rumden 뭐 코랑기 change 매제 계란 나래스네 봐 숨쳐야지로 보다 계란기 딘들라고 두었어 뒤맞아 띠가스나 드라바스거로 띠가스나 드라바스거로 롱티 반나스 계란기 드레베 난들 딘데 두었어 지지도 단대 딱다 누구 두었어 드라바드 까버마도 강사들이야 팀 멤버체 팀장 같은 거라도
진주 가지 빼서 좀 내고 사절라고 뭐 니만 가져라고 맞다 사절 군도 성경 소디 멤버지 디제기 진주도 저다 진주도 그거 가르쳐야
No. In fact, in fact, in the writings of the author, the main text author for Sergei Monastery, so Jezumba. So what in his commentaries he'll say in the commentaries of Rongdumba, so he says Rongdibanari. So in the commentaries of this great master Rongdumba, he doesn't say Rongdumba says. So he doesn't address his critique to the person. He says in his commentary it says this. And so he's making the same point, really, that he's not taking the person to task, but the addressing the way that things are expressed in the commentary. So then Geshe is making the point, it's like, when you go right back to the source of the Nyingma tradition, the Kagyu Sakya tradition, and so on, completely perfect, of course. But in their tradition, you have later scholars who have composed, great variety of commentaries, and they can make mistakes. You might be able to find mistakes in their writing.
No. Dati king tumba ngaje the king ba tumba be ngashi bi chama shingi kanazo ganga devane ene jena mo bu no do dusna tinde lagumes ko kunshi gi be poba chimbu sharbo shimias pames padi kabasha jangoloma zonga chimbi shung ene dusocha mebodi ene gombolulu da dawa tabal soba duzu shung tuzol sha ta jangolo ma zonga ba chimbe zanju gnamshe ane bengo pabaludu da dawa tabegi zawa sherada ane dan jubaran da sukseda da duzu be shunglu tuzol ya bet dagjorsna zunju kujorsna dumba deba 어떤 zunju 대박 니초고 토네 아니 야야 잠베 툴라 때네 아니 따체기 탄니리야 다 토바다 누가 토도 매바 아니 토도 찬텔레 아니 타베르바 치기스 직도 세는데 다 토도 세드레 다도 스베가 갈드니지 판돈 내가 그러다 직도르다 토다 누버레 토도 차버레 어다 랑가 부수 토고 찍는 도도 도전 가스나 다 직도 써야 돼 tinde질 거거래 어다 따제기 탄이기 토도래 에네 타르베게 에니 레바이어스
그래서 카스타 파미제 파세야디다
제르무체기 말마 제르무체기 단덴디 가르사 공부를 세당 자시 zanju 남셔 람르 람동 제종다 당연히 신님부터서 파세 거서 대고 매세 매부도 공부루도 다와타베 슝도 절고 파면 슝우기 따보 상보스
Yes, so the next verse then, so though I'm not among the omniscient, I do possess expertise in riding the well-bred horse of my ancestors' works. So I have to actually make distinction there. So I hope to traverse the challenging passage through constant and dedicated striving. So here the author is, I don't know, showing humility. In other words, he's saying, I'm not trying to make out that I know everything and you guys, you've made all these mistakes. It's not like that at all. So though I'm not among the omniscient, so I do possess expertise in riding the well-bred horse of my ancestors' work. So there's actually two parts to this word in the Tibetan, pame. So the part which is usually father, so this would refer to the texts of Kyabje Rinpoche Lama Song Kappa. So specifically like his the commentary to the Madhyamaka Vatars, commentary to the Mula Madhyamaka Karika and so forth. And then when it says the me part in the pame, so this literally it does refer to the ancestors. So, but specifically here it refers to Nagarjuna and Chantakirti themselves. So the text of all those. So I do possess expertise in riding the well-bred horse of my ancestors' works. So I am, maybe you should say father and ancestors, I don't know, works. So I hope to traverse the challenging passage. So anyway, continuing the analogy of riding a horse. So, you're riding the horse and there can be some obstacles or somewhere where the path becomes very, very narrow. So he says that because of that, I do hope to be able to ride to liberation, to traverse the challenging passage through constant. It doesn't mention about liberation, does it? Anyway, so I hope to be able to achieve to be liberated through traversing that challenging passage. And there was something else I thought. Oh yeah. So actually, it mentions maybe actually in the last line. So through constant and dedicated striving. So this has got the Dajo and Gujo. So Dajo would be something like, applying yourself constantly. So that refers to the joyous effort. And then the Gujo, so like that would be like applying yourself with respect or veneration. So that's to do with the faith. So he's talking about, progressing along the path by making efforts through a combination of those two, joyous effort and faith.
That 그래서 우리 따와년에 지 나수초세 딱 날소 다 병원에 다네 지 강해질 탈을 나수 어딘데 찍디 카리얼스나 사샤메베 타데도 날소한테 카르레스나 솔구 민두데 총회라이 덴바르 미션데 줌바라이 줌바 민고데 덴바라이 치미 타밀라 나소 초고스
No. Then in verse 22 he's talking about sort of like resting, having found the view, having realized the view. So he says, no search is required, for the seeker is the sought. There's no search is required, for the seeker is the sought. Anyway, okay, let's leave it as it is. That is, yeah, it's okay. Maybe she will comment on it. So never grasp at the truth, for it is false. Yet shun not this falsity, for it is the truth. And we can rest in this, that is neither nothing nor absolute.
Tati ni double. Then the Gula menala, Titi imbarella, Mondo Janganala, Titi imbare. And Dilla Seja Chiame, Shaver Chawa Jungseme, Yanda Nila Yandata, Yanda Ton and number 2 set. Oh, Kora Shikanda Kain, Kora Truza Nine, Rangun Matu to the Tonga to Nilu to the Yore, Korango, Tinichre, Diremato Chigi, ko cheese and rangun to pass seguaji, Tinde Yomars, de la Seja Chiames. Ta Dil Seja Chiame or Dindere, or rangun to Bati, Namane, Mabachi Remato, Jesus Mongucheni, rangun to pass seguia de Yomarella, rangun to the Tombatea, Tongo Korane, to the Mine, rangun Tombe to Remato, any cheese. And Gomyamne Chen ko Tonga Chinetsu Leon, Shabar Chawaya, Jungse Yomaris, that didn't double.
So this is actually very much like statements we find in the Uttara Tantra and in the Abhisamalam Kara. So Rinpoche, quoted the verses. But what these verses are stating, what it's saying here is that so whatever object you're analyzing or considering, it's empty of existing from its own side, right from the moment that it comes into being. It's not like that in the beginning there was existence from its own side, and then the existence from its own side was eliminated through reasoning or through the force of meditation. So it's not at all like that. Right, that the very nature of things is that they are empty of existing from their own side.
Da Cholgu Mindu de Chonga Ryan Singende, da Tongbanigi Rashi, and Amatombanigi Rashi, Nar Mebachi, Shane, Sardu, Chogoba Mindus, Chonga Sem, Koran, and Tuzanine, and Monigi Tombe Ranshin to Tutubares. Chongken Rais, Chongken Koran, Sentomani Rashin, Tutubares, Gazetire.
Choking Sem
Koran,
no. So what it says in the first line, okay, so no search is required, for the seeker is the sought. So anyway, there's no need to seek elsewhere, because that empty nature. The empty nature doesn't need to be sought. So literally, it doesn't need to be sought, because it itself is empty of existing from its own side. Has always been empty of existing from its own side. The mind that's analyzing, the analyzing mind itself, the mind that's searching. Sorry, the mind that's searching is itself, though empty of existing from its own side.
That Dambara mission de Zumbarais, Pena Semzamatabugi, and Chidhan Kane, Sheva Dambatuba. Tinsungu Arwa, or Dambara mission de, and Sheva Kora, Sem Kora, and Semzama Nashinchigi, Dambar Tinde Yomar, Sem Kora Tuzam Yine, Dindru Tonya, Din Dambatuba Nave, and Zumbara Redeyores. Chuje Semti, and Koran, the Zumba Yindante, and Shikanda Kainea, Dambatuba Tomba Inea, Ko Dambanashi Nangi Yovainza, and Tingo Nangi Yovainza, Zumbares.
No. Then it says
Zumbarais.
Then so don't grasp it as true, because it's false. So what this means is that you have the Chittamatras who say there's no external objects, so they refute external objects, and then they say that the mind itself is truly existent. So here it's saying don't grasp the mind, which is the subject, as existing truly, because it appears to be truly existent, and yet it's actually empty of true existence. And for that reason, it's false, because there is that disparity between the way that it appears and the way it actually exists. So it's false. No.
다 줌바 문고때 담바라이 생기지도.
No.
다때 가르르스나 줌바 셰베 타녀 잠데 고고 말했어. 군조 최탐제 줌바레 뭐 남순네 좀 밑에 배쳐래 줌바레 디차도 고고 말했어. 줌바 문고기스 덴바라이 셰베도 돈단 덴바이 셰베 깨자 멤버체 자제 루아 메베 군조 덴베랑 신레스.
나
자제 루아 메베 군조 덴베랑 신레스.
Demarani said kunzo Demarani.
군조 덴바랑레스.
No. And then it says, so yet shun not this falsity, for it is the truth. So what this means is, don't refute falsities. So that's the word's been used. Okay, so falsities, because falsities do exist conventionally. So don't refute them, because they're not non-existent. They're not non-existent, they're conventional truth. So here when it says, for it is the truth, don't think of that as meaning true as in ultimate truth or ultimately, truly existent or something like that. It doesn't mean that. It means truth in the sense of conventional truth.
다 디체인도 강바탐베 철구 민도데 초케라인 세티기 동배 차트때 동반이기랑 신받때 줌바 문고데 덴바라인 셰버데 군조 타녀 점데 임받때 대인도 딱제기 타니데 세 동바 덴바 임받기 딱다 세그레 아니 군조 타녀 점데 여받기 차다 세그레다 좀다 지징 찾네잖아 안 단규베 통모마임베 타니 세단지 가산라 슈차르 티안 디난 두레 어 두체네 아니 치미 따미라 나서 초고스 따제기 타니인데 자베 우말라 아니 나서 초그레스 나서 쳐야지 두스 다 간다 따제기 타니 우메튼 또투야 나서 쳐버데 우메튼 또 버티스 그래 우메다 또 봤어 So the first one where it says so no search is required for the seeker is sought. So that line is talking about the empty side, that empty nature of things. And then when it says then it comes no. Just kunso tanu du said it demba mi siente zumba ni zumba mi kote demba rain ijarbe no. Yeah, so that first line is about the empty side, where it says no search is required for the seeker is the sought. Then with the next two lines is talking about how how conventionalities are nominally exist nominally. So that's talking about the conventional side. Those two lines: never grasp the truth, for it is false. Yet shall not don't negate this falsity, for it is the truth is conventional truth. So in that way, these three lines are, they eliminate the two extremes, the permanent extreme and the nihilist extreme. And in fact, you can also go into this and understand it as also talking about the unique prasangika understanding of the relationship between emptiness and dependent arising. So remember, emptiness
getting rid of the extreme of non-existence and dependent arising, getting rid of the extreme of existence. So then when it says, and we can rest in this that is neither nothing nor absolute, so which is free of the two extremes of not existing and existing, permanently or eternalistically, however you want to put it. So when it says now we can rest in this, so rest in this is talking about having actually found the view, the ultimate view of reality.
That DJ Litria and Tawalaya Gomyon, the Gombata Nyonga Tembe, and Ding set them by Imbare, the Ding that set them. Ama Matonya, Mingzam Shigi, Pama Tinchente, Urin Torwa, Can and Dubashi, Trevor Nangis. The Ama Matonya said to them, Can and Dubashi, Trevor Nangis said the Katujana Nange Suchi Yore. That the Karikogorosna, Ama Matoya said the Amati Tony Chene, Tuni and Musum Seme, Musumatoyans. And Mingzam Shiki said the Tenjung Juteng, Tanya Mingan Tayo Zam, the Tenjungi, Juteng, Tala Danes, and Tomba Tenjung, Tenjung Tombegi, Trosdragi, and Tindegi, and Pama Tingente, and Jigros Jig Yodabaji, and Tatapatu, Manyabati, Susutila Yoba, Nuna Yobanashi, and Tonsons, the Jabala Dene, Dawsons, Musun Matona, Jabala Dene, and Duste, Tombange, Tombangebala Dene, Tishuti, and Tinju Chamuti, Nuagon Toyangurua, or two Dawsos. Or Yurimbo Tawa Matoyat, Matobe. That Pama said, Ni Lagoyati, Mati Tongwaniti, and Patti Kunzo Mingatayo Tenju. What did it?
You mean it the Jojo the Tenju?
Cover thing dead, do you best?
No.
Oh, cover thing dead, do you best?
No. So then,
Papa Sachi, Cartier Ringu, you do Chagendre, that Chagen to Tenjung the Inza, and dead Rudua.
No. Yeah, so then it says, though I may not see my mother directly, I feel I've just found my long lost parents. Hearing their mere names, they are as if right here beside me. So yeah, when so though I may not see my mother directly, so there should be two things that look a little bit on the surface as if they would be contradictory. I feel like I found my kind lost parents. It's as if they were right beside me. So the point is that the point that's being made is that he's talking about how he can't see his mother, meaning hasn't yet got a direct perception of the mother. In other words, emptiness. Then so then with through their mere names. So through their mere names. So I feel I just found my kind of long lost parents through hearing their mere names. So this is talking about the relying upon the reasoning of dependent arising. The dependent arising of how things are mere names and mere imputations. So having relied upon the reasoning, that reasoning of dependent arising. Then I feel like I've just found my kind of long lost parent. So then, so he's talking about how even though he hasn't got a direct perception, he has a conceptual understanding. In other words, he's realized it with valid inference. So yeah, so then when it says parents here, it's actually talking about the union of what do you call it? The dependent arising and emptiness. The way that we've been talking about it before, actually, the way that emptiness and dependent arising somehow reaffirm each other and support each other, somehow help each other. So, I was asking because above. So here it's Rinpoche is saying it's it's talking about the mother, of course, emptiness, the father, the dependent arising. Then before it was talking about using the word father to refer to the object which is empty. So actually, sometimes it talks about the father in one way, sometimes in another. But actually, there's no conflict there really, because the object which is empty is a dependent arising. So it can refer to either of them really. So so the kind parents, meaning the union of the dependent arising and emptiness.
That cutting just to be that Tabanzaji, that Chaba in the team. Ludu have said the cutting chose. Losan Tapa the cutting chose. Tinjan Lama the cutting cho, cutting Sotapsu, amateur toes. The Sangajum Dendegi and Kolpaba Yum Sheragi Paru to Chimbeton, Sung Shayagi, 20, and so to Yag Chetu, Ludu Yase said that Kazangi should there to the Banda Daughter so, then Luba Aya Deval so, what to so. The end Yabushu one. Luba Sanjay Jangi and Devan Budapalite Nalaya, Mo Nigi Tuna, Tini Shabe Chogi, then a Tabe Chicha Saji. The missive the Nova Chimburesan, Yawashinu, Yane and the Kachinangiva, or Tichumbe. And Mo Nigi today, and Tara Shasho, and called ten Tagoya Midua said, or those ten, that Chetam de ten Jungimba, ten a thousand imba, or Tanya Wangi Shabako, what that to zo Ludu Yapse said, to zo Yabache, to zo Gadin Chost, and tender weg shung to Zoya, and bet cotton seva, then bet session Nashabati, and Jermuchegi, in Lishe to Zone, Yunguyabayinza, Losanta with the Gadin Chos, then they murder Nanya to Surisna, and Koran Lamatinza, in Tinja Lama Gadin Cho, Gadin Sotopsu, amateur dos, that amateur said the Parliament Gadin Dubejar said Mendo, and Dubanyamlengi, Chabadi, Chabe Chochagres, or this Mendos and Dungarasamba.
Sotopsu, amateur said Yamlenji.
Or that Choba Tamji Cho Dube Choba, Tombaniki Turn Gombe, Yamlenti, and Java Gebe, the Choba Metchon, what the Ingurota.
Then the next
then the Karingo Lamzunara Yore, Tennis Sanjay Gebe Lamla Shoops. Now, the Nildos in Joseph Sevejon, Tijitan, Kanshi Konde Chona, Tamjiki, Yunde Namia Lua, Metoji, Mikbe Teso Kanyi Kunshiwa, Tennis Sanjay Gebe Lamla Shoop. That Sanjay to Gag, and Gaba to Gayatiris.
Then the next verse 24. So this is a verse of praise, we can say it's a verse of worship. So he says, "Great indeed is the kindness of Nagarjuna and his heirs." So this is talking about Nagarjuna, Aryadeva, Chandrakirti, Buddhapalata also, like for example, these great masters clarified the meaning of emptiness as taught by the Buddha in the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras. So, like for example, in the text called Buddhapalata by the master Buddhapalata. So there is a passage which His Holiness Dalai Lama often quotes. So what he says is, if things exist by their own entity or by their own nature, then what need would there be to label them? Because just as they are would be enough, something like that. So anyway, he points out the absurdity of saying that things exist from their own side. So this is really quite amazing in itself. So then he says, yeah, great indeed is the kindness of Losang Drapa, so Lama Tsongkhapa. So Lama Tsongkhapa explained the meaning of what they taught, Nagarjuna and so forth taught in his own commentaries, which we mentioned. And then, so then who explained, explained all this to him, the author, it was his own guru. So therefore he goes on to say, great indeed is the kindness of my guru. And then when it says, to repay their kindness, I will honor my mother. So what that means is, so worship, honor my mother. What he's talking about is that to repay their kindness, he will meditate on emptiness, because actually the highest form of worship, the highest form of offering, the highest kind of offering that you can make, and what actually pleases the Buddhas and one's gurus and so on, the most is one's own practice. So he says he's going to repay that kindness by meditating on emptiness. And so this is evocative of I think it's the second verse in the verses on the view in the three principal aspects of the path. So it says such a person has entered into the path that pleases the Buddhas. So so it's just like that. Meditating on emptiness is the path that really pleases the Buddhas.
단다 고물루기 사와시라고 톤 제베 있는 디더도 왔어. 동반이 꼬르망보치 숭숭숭숭숭네. 아니 주구주구 들라야. 안 덤베까지 템베고네. 강기 투제 이녀스네. 따와 탐제 방배치. 담배 천 던제베 고덤들라 차차로스네. 아니 지 덤베까지 템베고네. 안 따외 톤 덤발이야 산산 여러시베 계자마인 봐. 따와 탐제 방배치 담배 천 던제바스 사무 땡중기 아니 저들 동반이 아니 숨베고네 아니 까지 템베고네 차차 디단다고 이 말래.
This is also, this particular verse here, coming right at the end, as it does, is very much like in Nagarjuna's, the Mula Madhyamaka character, where he has spent all of those verses, chapters, and so on, talking about emptiness, and then right at the end of the text, to remember he praises the Buddha by remembering his kindness. So so it says that. So he says, homage to Gautama, who out of compassion taught dependent arising in order to free all beings from their mistaken views. So not praising him for having all of the major signs and the minor marks and so on, but praising for having taught emptiness free of elaborations through depending upon the reasoning of dependent arising.
Tatine Muati Pejimendo Muati Keme Jodeke Amagemu Ribe Pujundan Hanging Zomne Kunsan Joba yi Gaden Chimbu Magen Rowanam Tender Chidos and Tande Chi Tombani Tawagi Kor and Tandema Chi Moto Chi Sung Shabatuzu and the Gawat Karimu Kanyam Simje Tamje 얘는 산제지 공반토야. 얘는 야세기 줘봐 군도 삼보 딘데기 람리아 로비아 체도 뭐야. 얘네 게메 저르게 아마게모 리베 부준다 현지 좀네 사데 얘네 동바 땡중 동베 다와디 얘네 셰비치도 뭐야. 어떻게 뭐 맨날 숨지 예배 수지 동안 게메 저르게 아마게모 리베 부준다 현지 좀네스나 동바 땡중 대체 군산 줘봐이 가든 챔비사데 야세기 줘봐 군조 탑지 차티체 아니 근데 탑시기 람 초니부 텔라 때네 마겐 로는 텐데 산제지 코마토 답에 다진 나와이나 겨와디 교고 소나이시 초조시 소나이시 레중 담바군이 탑을쇼 송야다 더블 리버 주주베 고몰루두기
So then the next verse 25 seems to be very much of a verse of dedication. So he says, through the joyous celebration of all noble deeds, through the meeting of the young child awareness with his unborn and inexpressible aging mother, may all mother beings be led to lasting joy. So he's dedicating all of the merits, the virtue of having explained about the view in these verses. He's dedicating it all for all sentient beings to achieve enlightenment, to be able to practice the Bodhisattva practices, and to be able to achieve or to realize the view of emptiness and dependent origination. So then this is also like in the so this is like in the that verse that we often hear from the Nagarjuna's 60 reasons, 60 verses of reasoning. So there he says
지담부터 게메 저들게 아마 게모 세대 유동반이 티체
주주바
다다 동배 치다고 준준을 와서로 동반이서 다도 지동 준투고 뭐
리버 주주기
알레 리버 주주가 치데 겨와디 겨
So this is like the verse from the 60 reasons, which says because of this virtue, may all sentient beings complete the collections of wisdom and merit, and through that achieve the two bodies of the Buddha, the form body and the truth body. So this, very much like that.
곧다가래 게메 저들게 아마 게무스나 유동반이 티체 리베 부중승인데 가장 부중용바인바 덴징 찡데베 덴징 찡데베 셰바티 부중용바인바 다 돈이 또베기 데메 또베 이시데 리베 부중티체 리베 부중 돈이 또베 이시티체 돈이 또베 이시티 유동반이리아 출라 추샤신도 로직도 슈버세 페이지 디설지 고야 인기래 딱 간다 다 돈이 또베 이시티 유동반이 냐바 디인자 리베 부중당 현진 좀바레스
김지 아마게모디 돈이체
게메 조제게 아마디 유동반이 티체 아니 리베 부중디 돈이 또베 이시티체 돈이 또베 이시기 유동반이 냐바 인자 현진 좀바이 맞체 돈이 또베 이시기 유동반이 현진 좀바데 인들래 여러와 탄주를 룩잖아 인들 녀랑기야 녀랑 밥에 돈이 또 고그러와 이내야 콜 체주 터바 가야스나 군산 줘바이 다된 첨부 쓴데 아니 삼바심게다 줘바 친루기 탑기 냠랭기 어떻게 되기 군산 줘바이 가된 첨부스 어다 탑시 람 탑시 니를 때네 마게놈 로와 텐데 살이야 치바지 모스
And so where it says through the joyous celebration, no, that's not it. Give me so it must be the third line. Yeah, it looks like it's the third line in English. With his unborn and inexpressible aging mother. So that's talking about emptiness. So that's okay. Then let's see, through the joy celebration, through the meeting of the young child awareness, through the meeting of the young child. So the young child awareness. So, you know, before we did have that expression of the crazy young child. So now this is not talking, that this is different. So this is talking about the young child awareness. The young child awareness is talking about the wisdom realizing emptiness. And then when it says, the meeting, so it says meeting, okay, that's right. So through the meeting, so this is making the point that since that wisdom realizing, that wisdom realizes emptiness, so it's like together with emptiness. So that's the meaning of the meeting there, somehow, you know, those two coming together. Then so that wisdom realizing emptiness is not something which is unique to the Mahayana path. Also the hearers and solitary realizers, they also realize emptiness, but what's special about the Mahayana is revealed in not the next line, but the joy, I guess this would be the first line in the English. Through the joyous, let's see, yes, exactly, yeah, the first line in the English, through the joyous celebration of all noble deeds. So, yeah, so the all good, all pure conduct, so that's okay. Anyway, what this is talking about is the fact that practice of wisdom is combined with the remaining perfection. So you have 6 perfections. So it's talking about the other 5 perfections. So then, so he's, so then anyway, so so this is like the dedication, you know, for all sentient beings to be able to be led along the path to enlightenment in that way, through realizing emptiness, combining, you know, in other words, combining method and wisdom in order to be able to achieve enlightenment. You know.
다 군산 줘봐 생긴디 야세 창주스미 줘배 토리아 녹 투야디 가르스나 단다 상주 모놈디 나나 되나 하고도 왔어. 델리아스 상부 줘봤어. 군도 상부 줘봤어. 어 딘데지도 왔어. 델리아 아니 소제기 람기 내급기 상부 주주 파벨람기 내급기 상부 주주 어 델라 때네 아니 디부 남주 쫀줄이야 jam고름 책에 drupe joba asne drupe joba asne sumsungu yubas drupe joba ore drupe joba and drupe joba dan drupe joba ene drupe joba o ti karasna da kandak tirwak o she lam du searchere o jube joba tamo du searchere jube joba de lam yin negolare ane jube joba de jibu sanje sai negol de jube joba ju ju su ju sai de de koyo tinga dande kunsan joba she joba de tagarare o tinga sanje molam nala soje negol lam la chu yore o tene phalam gi negol gi lam la su sung yore tene jibu sanje be jegi and joba chitan je sung yore sangjo monongi ki kame tewa tere tinza kunsan joba yi gadon chimbo kunsan joba de jase ki joba lo kogu yoba de tere ta.
And where it says here all the noble deeds, yeah, kundu zambo said it samadvarara. So the kunzang joba, so kundu zambo ki joba, so that would be like the conduct of, but I mean, if we, in terms of you know, like the way that we see it in the King of Prayers, you know, it's anyway. We see the word, the Sanskrit word samantabhadra. So anyway, it means, you know, all pure, kundusambo, always pure, always pure. So then when it talks about the always pure conduct, so we can understand what this is referring to from the you know, yes, we can understand this from the way it's expressed in the King of Prayers. So anyway, so the King of Prayers. So there has His Holiness point. No. Ale Sanjumalan Gejes. Sorry. I thought we'd gone over to the King of Prayers. But anyway, so so no. Yeah, so it says here the noble deeds, so the, you know, the all pure, the completely pure deeds or conduct. It can be conduct, it could be deeds. So His Holiness mentions mentions about this from the way it's talked about in the Bodhisattva. So there it talks about well, basically, you know, conduct at the level of the ordinary being, then which is like causal, then conduct at the level of the Arya being, which, you know, yeah, the Arya being the Arya paths, and then conduct the enlightened level. So, you know, like conduct at the base path and result. No.
That is so. That in jugu delia in that medu chung geza that chobe tseruchi reda Emma la robe doji awo la kibe kangro wana la diru dungtang awo la konjo chotos tati ji karsore ngurgi tsik kechu chik tengyare ngurgi nyam chik tengyare tagas tsikje zombe ke keje chik mayimba tsikje di luchi tangwa na shin chigi o dos chene yoyundu Emma ho sanu da ao sanu da wana la sanu da aho lasni dos chene tsik dozo dangi sheg dang surchire sheg dang liya lebat surchire toyong modola da jangolam zongo chim tendi tebe nan sungma na shire Emma tomba Emma jab Emma macho Emma go tenjen renjo li sumbe tomba tela dacha sa se tonda chikwa kokore 다 캐랑기 동반이기 된 진짜 말로 보지 땜바 인자 동바 라나 메바르티샤스 다 캐랑기 땡중 동배 돈도 숨샤베 동반이기 된 되기 아니 세배 칭월에 저도고도 코외 칭월에 레 시신이게 칭월에 저도고도 대인자 에마 잡스 에마 동바 에마 잡스 다 딘데기 띵중 유전의 제베 동백이 된티 아니 상계 좀 된데 캐나 마청월이야 점물린 동바 캐쳐 몽보 중요할 때 수직 소민도 대인자 캐나데 마와 남에 버스 야마 마초스 딘데 인도 아니 딘징기 칭월에 아니 간조 단답하도 코알이야 나르댕인데 딘징기 칭월되게 나르되게 여 딘데 인자 딘징기 칭월들에 줘야기 다 람된 나니 인자 캐랑 간주 또 고모 연하면 들으셨어 에몽거스 람된 거 곤잡 나니 공부레스 어tin 나신 체제 다 에모사 대단다 버렸다 알라로 건조 쳐도스 다 단데 데레 산제 쳐도스 민도 건조 쳐도스 또 돈다 디랍치래
Now, this last verse, verse 26, it's not, how to put this, it's not simply a question of him having sort of like, you know, finishing the composition with the last verse.
That's the
this is more like sort of a song of his experience.
Or
No. So it's interesting actually, because you got 4 words in the Tibetan which are all expressions of, like, wonderment kind of thing. So it says in the first line it says Ema, then in the second line it says Ao, and then in the third line it says Ona, and then in the last one it says Aho. We only got one A in the English. This is a fitting. But anyway, how would you do it? I don't know. Aho, wow, yeah, I don't know. But anyway, so and Rinpoche is saying, probably, if he, when he was saying this, he was actually, maybe he was actually dancing as he said it, So anyway, so he says, anyway, so I, Robert Dodge, perform here and now a dance of ecstatic joy and worship the 3 jewels. So even though it explicitly mentions the 3 jewels, it doesn't, explicitly mention the Buddha. This is really very much like the one verse in the dependent arising praise, where the Buddha says, what's the word he uses? Anyway, in the Tibetan, it's Ema, so Ema, or Ema, how wonderful kind of thing. So each one he talks about, wow kind of thing, like wow, such a Emo Tomba, Emo Kyabje, Emo Machok, Emo Gurn. So it's like, what a teacher, what a refuge, what a such a supreme teacher. Maybe the first one should be more like Dumba, like as in like teacher, as in the founding teacher. What's such a founding teacher? Why? Because of having taught dependent arising. Then why? So why did he express it as such a wonderful refuge? Because through that teaching, we can break through the fetters that bind us to cyclic existence and peace. So you can avoid both the extremes of cyclic existence and peace. Then supreme teacher. So what a supreme teacher. So this is there, Lama Tsongkhapa is making the point that many teachers had already come into the world, but none of them had taught emptiness and dependent arising. But when you came to the world, you taught that. So that makes you like the supreme speaker, I guess we could say, to make a difference between the Dumba, so supreme teacher versus supreme speaker, Emo Machok. And then why supreme, the Gun would be like protector, savior, protector. And so this is because, up until now, we have been bound by the fetters of grasping at true existence. So now you've saved us from that. So therefore, you're a wonderful protector, or savior.
That in Shu Jarjan, the Europe, the Jomjanti, Karnan, Sen, Sheba among Moshigi, Dunsi Chache, Ryan Dia, Umachambol, Haber Mebe, Janja Rebe, Doji, Jube Necho, Root Zanger Mebe, Yigiba Negano, Gili Namga Osh, Santa Takarasha. No. And then he finishes off with a little bit of some of the background to the composition. So he says, these few deceptive lines describing the recognition of my mother, entitled The Melodies of an Echo, have been written by Gyaltsen Rinpoche Dorji, someone with deep admiration of the great middle way on the miraculous holy Utaishan, in other words, the 5-peaked mountain. And it was scribed by the Bhikshu Gelek Namka. That's Hasos.
So it's finished.
Lobten trouble the Hasos.
The difficult topic has been finished.
Yeah, that didn't it?
No. So we do a little bit of question and answer, and then we'll stop there. So question, there was one good question. Did Georgie meeting Lavju? The cousin didn't love song. So anyway, maybe I should say in English first, so you can have something to think about. The question that somebody asked us. So it's that the emptiness is not a non-affirming negation, it's an affirming negation, because while it negates true existence, it also implies dependent arising. That the chini that mega mares mainga res cars na choshin pengidos shen kari pengidos and the tension deed pengiduras.
Tako
Could it like it?
Tenju kaba mare.
No.
Tenju pemba mare. Mig me na me che mes jimato o mig tenju na tenju lagumiduas. Mig me na mes o ta mig me na mes mig rangshingi tubio mare na rangshingi tubio mares o tus labdu ko rangshingi tubio ka son de mato di en tigi mushu kanaya tenju sing de tengemeduas. 이내 땡중 까요 말았어. 까야만 다 들었다.
그거 삼는고 동거 중세 제거 때문에 땡중 고투요. 네가 땡중 편기도 삼고 동거 중세
안단도 지도수 딜라기도 제상코 동바 인상 땡중으로 와 스코디상도 땡기도
동거 인상 동거 중세 제거. 동거 중세 전에 신의 땡중 대체로. 동거 코나 가서 런시 주고 가서는 빼내디로 탐세 창 미통스라로 탐세 창 미통스라도 잠발라 창 만두가 좀 까워레마도로
신나도 통기도
중동거 라고요 말 얘네야 코 초구도 왔어요 나요로 코치 동아지 동거였어 나요로냐 코초 토구도 왔어 이런 식으로 그래서 탐세 창 통구요 말 됐어요 하고 코 초구도 왔어. 그냥 가래인의 집 동구였어. 나 진짜 여기가 동아들 팽기면다. 어디나.
No. So that's good actually, yeah. The thing is, you see, when you're realizing realizing emptiness, so for example, the emptiness of form, you realize the emptiness of form, you're not negating form, but you're also not implying form. It doesn't imply form. There's nothing in the words that implies form, and it doesn't say, like the form or I that it exists. It doesn't imply it directly or indirectly. You can say that that although at the time when you're negating emptiness, you don't realize the dependent arising, so it's not implied, and that nevertheless, when you come out of the meditation, you can think to yourself, oh, it's empty, therefore it's a dependent arising. You can do that, but that doesn't mean to say that when you were negating the inherent existence of the object, that that implied the existence of the dependent arising. So this would be like one of the examples we find in the texts which talk about different types of negation and affirmation and so on. So it says the Brahmin does not drink alcohol. Okay, so that negates the Brahmin drinking alcohol, but it doesn't actually imply in its place that that the Brahmin drinks something else like orange juice or apple juice or something like that. It doesn't imply that, even though it is true that that the Brahmin must drink something because of being alive. So that the Brahmin drinks something, but still, when you say the Brahmin does not drink alcohol, that doesn't imply drinking something else. So it's like that. So anyway.
Land do
No.
냠샤네 당배 제가 아니 주마도 통스. 냠샤 내가 주마 통을 따로. 냠샤 내가 가서는 주님마도 니난 가고로. 순서가 나와요. 이제 다 되게 나와요. 이 주중도 뭔가서 되는 것이 신의 다 제도 비내가서 하고 맞아.
단데디 쪼바 녀르시사 쪼바텔라 니낭기 쪼바 딘징기 쪼바 군조기 쪼바 유유진 타데기 쪼바 오 데마투베 쪼바 오 냠샤가 내가 쪼바 투소파 시와인자 쪼바 녀르시스 군조 쪼바 테메 유유진 타데기 쪼바 테메 딘징기 쪼바 테메 니낭기 쪼바 테메 딘즈 쪼바 녀르시스
안단도 거 땡준데 펜베인세나 데니 제톱투 고디 상당 말아서
그래, 상당.
똑사라스
제도 내가 신의 주마다 차슬라 차고요. 냠산 내가 내 주마
야음도
슈글라 또 차로.
no
제도 주마다 was 라고 하면도
no so yeah so that's one thing. So then also if you were to say that while negating emptiness the object of negation inherent existence, in other words, when you realize emptiness, that dependent arising is implied in its place, which means you're realizing dependent arising while you realize emptiness. Then what that would mean is when you come out of your meditation, whereas normally we would say that's when you see that things are appearing to exist from their own side, but you know that they're not. So that's the illusion, aftermath experience. You would have to say there wouldn't be that practice. There would be no need for that practice because during the meditation itself, you already realized dependent arising, that even though things are empty, that they're nevertheless dependent arising. And so also to reinforce that, point, during the equipoise on emptiness, during the meditation where you're just negating the object to be negated existence from its own side, and then it's said that all elaborations cease, right? So that means that while you're realizing emptiness, there are no elaborations, and that refers to the dualistic appearance. So there's no dualistic appearance, there's no conventional appearance, there's no appearance of a difference between object and subject, and there's also no appearance of the true existence. So none of those appear. No. So do you have another question on that? Okay. The conventionalist phenomenon that is merely labeled is so subtle that it's almost like it doesn't exist. It's very difficult to say to see how it exists, how it doesn't show. 지난번에 가서 배나 또베 다산기 나다부지 샤시나 that did 참모레스 참모 휴지도 참모 휴지 인상다 그 또베 다산 레스데 할람 메바다버리 데 메바다 시기민도 이니고 참모 인상 데 디코서 또베 다산기 나다부지 연에데 또베 다산기 초지다부지 간디스토레스 디 답시치 소나
도베 따점 디카산티 양조 우주야레 유주니레네 요마레스 다 제네네 니기 요마레스 따던 제네 아니 디 유주 칸엔 두스네 아니 제네네 그 쪽즈로들 차샤나 그 두테 차셰 파세네 아니 쪽스 승인지 다 디레사지 니야자네 매우 차버와스 다 예버드네 만주 잘라샤 강가치기 여러봤어 다 도스지 예딘데 다 예탄데 가르다 도베 샤자
도베 왕기
다 도베 왕기 샤자 다 디딜라 베로지 파샤고 주나 단데 투와 다니디 페질 누초지 인도 커버레 ABCD 페이지 다니지 인도 커버레 에 속다지 여러봤어 디 부춘중 로 당보다 로니바갑라 아니 신주시저보다 쇼구주시저보 근데 간 에망보티 비망보티 아니 도신디 에르다스네 셰도 고도 왔어 주무티 타가란자 여러봤어 어딜이야 또베 타녀단 에스니 따버버스 다 뭔가 두둔 레서서는 sob다디 통윤드네 에피네츠 여번나시지 나 에이 생에서지 수 이제 디지 말한 소리야 미체 초배나라 용소치도 왔어 다 유랑게 뭐네 에 둘데 여봐이나 당번에 네 에르다스는 파타 먹고 타저르다스 다 되네 지 롱아도 두든 제 롭종 들레 차리 리버 통고 찾아서 디카르 디 에르스 디 쪽즈르 사이드 레버바스 디인드 시틀라 에사디 또베 바샤지 샤데지 임바체 다 인지민지 들 또보다냐디 파나드네 직고대로 지금 멤버체 그러 시코라 간데지 내가를 있느냐 디 타냐기 파샤고고요 또베 샤고고요 바디 가두이나레스 자물린데 소자지 매베 가두이나야 시직 trude요 디 시직디 다 간다 사투데요나 도투데요나 신투데요나 어디 가르레스는 디사레 디 도레사지 타냐자는 샤고도 왔어 타냐를 마대박이 든데지 도도지 다 촌면도 왔어 뭐 든데인도 다 타냐기 샤사야디 찍잖아 빼미스비 타보 고카보 타보레사지 찍잖아 고다마 트레블 하데바로지 나시레스 고다마 트레블로지 지금 내가 때시나 아다 데데 든데지레도 왔으네 람사 라트야스르지 단다 콘돔 피식스기 리바투조야 또 디나리아 출링기 있나 땡땡 팽기 요도스
I think really with this question, we have to keep going with that point that I mentioned that, which was taught by Lama Tsongkhapa, where he says there are just two possible ways that a thing could exist. So since you cannot find the thing when you look for it in the base of imputation, then since the only other way it could possibly exist is as a mere imputation, then you have no choice but to accept it's a mere imputation. So it exists because we know it exists, and it doesn't exist from its own side. So that's the only other possibility, that it's a mere imputation. So we talk about mere imputation by conceptual mind, merely posited by names. In other words, posited through the force of the conceptual mind, posited through the force of names and terms. So I think actually, since the person who's asking the question is probably a Westerner, so you might remember about learning your ABC. So if you think about the letter A, so when you're small, you've just got this piece of paper with lines on it, and then somebody has to point out to you, this is A, and gradually you get to know it, you get to think of it as A, and after a few years, when you see that configuration of lines on a piece of paper, then you really feel very strongly it's a letter A from its own side. It appears to be an A from its own side. If you were to say it really is an A from its own side, in other words, nothing to do with imputation by the names and conceptions and so on, then you'd have to say that nobody would need to be told that this is called a letter A. This is a letter A. You wouldn't need to be told that, and so it's an A. It's merely labeled A. It's merely imputed as an A, and it's not the case that you have to keep having somebody coming along to label it in order for it to be merely labeled. Merely labeled is its nature. It's its very nature. So it's not, somebody doesn't come along and make it merely labeled. It's its nature that it's merely labeled. Just like I was saying before, when my example of the things that were in the world before the world was populated. So they didn't exist from their own side, so they're merely labeled, even though there was nobody there doing the labeling. So it's interesting actually, because this idea of being merely labeled, in some ways, it looks like it's quite difficult. In some ways, if you just can get the point, it's actually quite easy, really. And I also think that if you take some of the understanding of quantum physics, that can also help you to see this point. No. 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 So it is important to avoid the mistake of thinking that when we say everything is mere naming, conception, and so on, that the object is a name. It doesn't mean that. What it means is that it exists through the force of, through the force of names and so forth.
Yeah, that in question.
So is there another question? Yes, actually there is. Merely imputed table is imputed upon its basis parts, which are form source. What type of phenomenon is it? Just that the Jogsit Shepe and the Shepardigi and the Taxila and the Chashi Ganga Lagira, the Chashi. Dunzo the Zugra, Zugres. The Tobe Taxangi Chogsi Krang, Zugre, Kakanda, the Bembore, Shepare, Demindujire Kares.
Josu Kora Tobe doesn't.
No. Zure. No.
Josu Kora Tobe doesn't.
No. Some years ago, Chogsi thing has a me toy or us. Tobe doesn't get Chogsi D, me time in those, the bed Kakare.
Oh,
no, did it toy one. What did yeah, so that
Josu Koraya Tobe, Josu Kora Tobe doesn't.
So one important point here actually is to keep in mind is that the table itself is merely imputed. So when you see a table, you're seeing a merely imputed table. When you see a merely imputed table, that doesn't mean to say that you know it's merely imputed, but what you're seeing is a merely imputed table. You're seeing a no. No, did it? Yeah, it's like when when you see a table, you're seeing an impermanent table. But just because you're seeing an impermanent table doesn't mean to say that you're seeing that it is impermanent. So you're realizing an impermanent table. That doesn't mean to say that you're realizing that it is impermanent. So it's similar to that. And then there's something else. Sure. So actually the answer to the question, so what kind of phenomenon is the imputed table? It's form. Because the table is form, therefore the merely imputed table is form. It's something which you can see your eyes. You can see a merely imputed table with your eyes. No. And okay, so the merely imputed table is form, but it's also merely posited by or merely imputed by names and the conceptual mind. Oh, this one is the next one, is it? Okay, so would there be any reason why it wouldn't be appropriate to talk about a movie in the same? Or it's very similar. So I don't know if everybody could see the question. Maybe did I read it out properly? I'm not sure I did. So would there be any reason why it wouldn't be appropriate? In other words, would it be appropriate to talk about a movie in the same way as the example of an illusion? So Rinpoche's answer is that a movie would be very similar to an illusion. ane rangyupa duzuki namgyum to gyumnanji res ya da sewa nanjin da demo nanji res lamna de piji de di or just a movie nanji lausa no
다 rangyupagi gyumati pejaya del koran le jablo le mixegi tawachi yordas ta tanda longye ti chi labina ti gyumata tis kagachi mendo.
The thing is that the Swat Tantrics have something particular in mind when they use the example of an illusion, and I think with a movie it might be a little bit different. Yeah, Abuta.
Rangyupagi karilagu yore. Ngazegi miglesagi tine talang tongyagi shijgore shidi duina shingina chigodus o dit duda shingdi mena nga kaze jamnaya tadala mo tonto maris ta du shingti ene nga da chiche mitil nga chijap en tilatene en dit tadala mo tongres ti indu dakshingene rangwen tube shichi gogres 또 따베 따좀 간자 말했어. 장문을 좀 시치 고그랬어. 그 디비션 대체. 다 두시 디신 대체. 다 달라 에네 나제기 밀레버티 대단다와 엔 담바투바 나와나시 어따들 달라는 게 요레스. 제주 고 니초지 용거도와. 다 근데 송년 신사데 무비 신사지 peji double rest sanguduti gyuma kenda tis dagmidu was ta sungyen shi singde sungyen de dongba kazan pe shucha ane shegyo nan ya dongbe sungyen shar yondu ane ken shashe mangbuchil tene 중요하res 나와 고그레스 shego tama go그레스 안 dongba go그레스 dongba mena shego tama da nawa yone dongba shego mares ta kunzuken mambuchil tene shawachires rete shigu nala dongbe ti chashi kane kya dongbe ngone ki chashi chikyang niga maris o dinna shinchene ken chokbali chungwa ina yang rangi wangi ene rangon chungse kya dinna nyedu yo maris ti chashi nyedu yo maris o doks ti mobile takta lures
zungi naji
Jumati dia tes pigapanan di cik doa. Ta movie ti ta kanda live TV ti ta thakare.
Live TV.
Live TV ti thakaran re.
Gyumanaji.
O mare gyumanashi mare sungye nashi. O pen sinzi kame sungu yonare chichi kame ju sungu are ti kame sungu nashi ki koten te yor nezu ganga legi yor ganga yor te ngone koran tinala ti chashi khane kya sinzi tina yo mare o yinaya teleya chaje ki namsha ganga chi yungu yore o te melona ni shin sunye de ti tiare.
I don't know if it's really I wouldn't say that it's really the same as a movie, you know, the illusion and the movie are the same, because in the case of the illusion, the whole point is that you have to have this basis of the sticks and stones and so on, and then the mantra is recited, and then the illusion arises. You have the illusory horse and elephant and so on appearing. So their whole point, the Swatantrikas, is that it's not it's not a mere imputation by conceptual mind. You do have to have something from the side of the object, and for them, the fact that you have to have the sticks and the stones there to make the illusion happen, that's what you need from the side of the object. That's an analogy for how you need something from the side of the object. So in the case of the movie, you know, that you see on TV, so I don't think it would be exactly like that, but I think it's, you know, if you think in terms of like live TV, that would be exactly the same as a reflection. So we also use a reflection as a to understand, as an example or analogy to understand things not existing from their own side. Because in the case of the reflection, so you have to have the mirror, and it also has to be clean, and you also have to have the face in front of it to get the reflection of the face in the mirror. If any of those is missing, then you don't get the reflection of the face. So you got the reflection, and the actual face doesn't exist in any of the parts of the mirror. So there's like right down to the smallest part of the reflection, none of it is the actual object. And it's like that when you've got live TV showing, for example, the president talking. So that would be like the reflection. Yeah, so you need the various causes and conditions, just like in the case of the reflection, for there to be the appearance of the president there. But even and then for that appearance of the president to be there, but there's no president in any of the parts, no actual president in any of the parts that you're watching.
Movie set you can the what is do us.
No.
Carers na division the trade being short to us. Film those Koran film chashe mangbo ko those doing in the kujo jabar was in the division the
the
movies na tilmare.
Nyama yena de because the movie said the gujo Kyabje Jhado the moving pictures. Movie.
Takanda nare tante chona nala pingsho dos chi kolo chumuji dos yubayina ranju bagi share dan dabujire ineya tanju gaje share de yore chu tamje mingong shazamado rangun duza yomare de ranju bagi tante shedan tigi sorji karde dushing dushi dishing chede ko pingsho de duas.
No, I think it would work in the case of the old-fashioned movies where you actually used to have a roll of film. So that would be like the sticks and the stones in the illusion, the magical illusion. So otherwise, I mean, of course, for the present geekers, it would work because it would demonstrate how things don't exist in the way that they appear. So it would work for them. But with the Svatantrikas, you do need that particular element, like some equivalent to the sticks and stones in the case of the illusion, magical illusion. So in that case, I think that the film that you show on a screen using the reel, that would be like an illusion.
In the main.
What would you say? Can you give some examples of how the Svatantrika use reasoning to support their argument for what they believe is the object of negation? To support their argument. Chesang kosu sena, rangyupa sena. Da gajang zindu gana ane de lon nemela nawi shaba mahimba ane yu rangi de tungoing be ane doligingali tubaschi sungduas. Chesang kosu gyunsenchi gogiyos res. Gaja dinding zimbala ane kosu gyunsen shayos ras. Chesang de gyunsing karil tene ane gaja dinde.
Ting ngai kazan shudaya de rangyuba menche gi ta chi yu chinche tela and ze ninya gores ze ninya majuna tokbe kanso chadu res
yu mun chungse mena ro yu mun mena tokbe kanso chadu gela thakda la ya dini tulo nyamsuna tu yogo res din thakda le tu ta de tamba tu gu phungbo tu ta ing de ro thakda le tu me be jinse kasana dakshi ro dakshi deni tu nye yo ma was chipu de la dakshi deni tu nye yo za di wong de sha ni so ko 50 ba 50 projection 50 quran chega yo res ta thanju ba gi 50 me cha chang quran pa
re ta o tire ta Kanar yu chinche chigla tse niya yo chores tse niya yo ba chumachuna and tobe kansu chagre and yo chag mares o tati ranju ba ne chebe that number tundama ganga gi shibu tewa tere.
What it really comes down to, the reason that they state that as the object of negation, in other words, existing by way of its own unique way of being without being posited to appear into an unmistaken mind, what it comes down to is, as I was explaining before, everybody actually from the Svatantrikas downwards, they say if something exists, you have to be able to find it when you look for it in the base of imputation. And if you say that things exist without being findable, then that would mean whatever the conceptual mind says or thinks, then it would have to be true. It would be like, for example, if you point at a dog and say it's I can't remember the example that I used, but anyway, if you point at a dog and say it's a lion, then it would be a lion, because all you need is a conceptual mind imputing. You don't need anything from the side of the object. So for them, you've got to have, it's 50-50. You need 50% from the side of the mind and 50% from the side of the object. Oh.
소요 풍부는 강사마로 비시 풍부는 강사마로 뒤제 풍부는 강사마로 대신 넘버시어 풍부 강사를 말라브랑다 그래서 덕시 때는 인지 민따세 시죠로 근데 인지 민지 보여서 아니 이게 넘버시어 강사라고요 중도에 다시 풍부 초점 강사라고요 다른 풍부도 느껴지시기도 던져 봐라 소가 풍부마다 소야 풍부마 뒤시어 풍부마 뒤제 풍부마 넘버시어 풍부마를 강사 센시를 가서 맞sam스 그리고 그래서 그 인지 민도 직니 보고 우주죠.
The thing is, they say you have to be able to find something. So if you have to be able to find something, then of course you're going to have to be able to find it. In the case of the person, right? We're talking. It's got to be the aggregates. And so they accept, of course, the form aggregate isn't the person, feeling aggregate isn't the person, the aggregate of recognition isn't the person, the aggregate of compositional factors is not the person. So they've got no choice but to say it's the consciousness. So they say, and in fact, within the consciousness, the Yiginam Shirad, so the mental consciousness, they say specifically.
이내 만족으로 롱주버디 더우더 내라가죠. 가브레 판에 찍이요를 순에 찍이요를 때 쓰지도 양 제가 전에 파리스를 남냐 뺏달라고.
So sometimes it seems like we are saying the same thing, but it's the fact that when you look for it in its space of imputation, you don't find it. So that's no, Larry. The thing is, you see, with the so all of the you've got all the other the lower tenets. So with the Svatantrikas, they say when they have to point out what it is that they're going to identify as the person, which goes from life to life, leaving old aggregates behind, taking on the new aggregates, and so on. They have their different ideas. Some say it's the collection of the 5 aggregates. Sometimes some say it's the mental consciousness, the mind base of all, and so forth. They all have their different ideas. But in the case of the Prasangikas, they say the person is not the form aggregate, is not the feeling, not the recognition aggregate, not the aggregate of compositional factors, and is not consciousness. So then what do they? So what is the person? It's the mere I. So this is actually quite tough, actually, to see why they would have to say it's the mere I. But anyway, it's the mere I that goes from life to life. And also, I missed something out. So this, we were saying that the Svatantrikas identified the mental consciousness as the person. So this is we know from the blaze of reasoning by
talk about it.
No.
Leveling deje.
So yeah, so
Kocha yigi number shepherd dagadamos do. Yang Sibajawa Rinpoche Dayanus.
No, Bhavaveka. So there's a passage in his Blaze of Reasoning where basically, he's saying that the mental consciousness must be the person because it's the mental consciousness that goes on and to a future life takes new aggregates and so on.
Oh, that the Kazan Zashi Jermuch teaching Lungji Chamba Imbas or Tinala Keja Kanda Kainea Rangi Singing Trubala Komchewe Wangi Natsams Natanya Zangi Najore Settler and Devuchama to Yati Komshi Wangres or Jawa Toma Mebane Rangi Singing Trubal Kombe Wangi Tanda Lamsa Chardebo Mebati Tires and Sungudua Tirakojuchimbuduas.
So I did quote from Lama Tsongkhapa's commentary to the Mula Madhyamaka Karika, where he said that it's because of this beginningless habit, because of the fact that since beginningless time we've had the habit of thinking that everything exists from its own side. It's because of that we find it quite difficult to get a grip of the idea that things are mere imputations and to get an idea of, what a mere I is. So he says that, and I think that's really quite an important point.
Keje rangi tsinigi trube tingne jobalo komchewe tekabana mingi tanyigi wangi shaba zamla teta joba lola medeyans. In joksunyi me Jibuti mena ta Jibuti mato shasa yomares. Lo tiganta uzu jam tangores.
So that's why it's difficult to really get this idea of a mere I. But as he says, there's only two possible ways something could exist. Either it exists from its own side, or it has to exist as a mere imputation. So since it doesn't exist from its own side, then it must be exist as a mere imputation, and we simply have to kind of really be pushy with that, just persist and push ahead with that idea. Dashi down. Oh, that's It's like if you've got two people, one's called Taji and one's called Dundrup, and something's gone missing, and we know definitely it was one of the two of them. So we've worked out without question it wasn't Taji. So then it has to be Dundrup. Even no matter what Dundrup says, we know that it must be him. And even though we might feel it can't be him, but it's him because it had to be one of the two, and it wasn't Tashi. So it's got to be Dundrup. So we'll stop there, okay? Yeah, that's it. Gyawa malu yebe ya yu yang ya ze zugi shinga raja su gyawe chezi tugi tembe tu no zang gyawe temba Gyu Jing Ze Wang Bu Dogi Chen Aru Tam Ji Zi Na Ni Do Chen Bu Ji Se Ji Gya We Nga Ji Ten Be Tu Lo San Gya We Ten Ba Gi Gyu Ji Tai Ji San Mi Kyu Ba Pe We Ji Tu Bi Zhong Du Xie Ga Chawa Tu Che Do Nan Xin Lun Ten Be Tu Lo San Gya We Ten Ba Gi Gyu Ji Ta Wa Nam Da Ta Chi Za Le Omba Nam Da Ji Mu Min Ba Che Ba Nam Da Gya We Ka Xin Zhu Lo San Gya We Ten Ba Gi Gyu Ji Man Du Te Ya Je Sa We Ke Te De Ji Ji Gyu Ja We Zhen Kun Yang Den De Den Dong Mo We San Lo San Gya We Ten Ba Gi Gyu Ji Dang Ye Sun Ra Ma Lu Gyar Ne Du Kan Sa Chi Gi Nyam Len Tam Ba Ru Nye Ba Nye Be Nye Chi Dai Dai Ga Lo San Gya We Tem Ye Gyu Ji Lun Ju Den Nu Sun Chi Nyen Dan Doi Bi Tem Ba La Sun Nyam Nen Ge Ke Jin Zhu Nam Da Mi Du Ju Lo San Gya We Tem Ba Gi Gyu Ji Chi Ru Nyen Du Ju Bi Ji Jin Nandu Rim Ni Na Jo Den Dan Den Dong A Lam San Ge Me Ro Su Ge Lo San Ge We Tem Bo Ge Gyu Ji Gyu Ye Te Ba Shi Tong Ba Ni Te Bu Tok Ki Dru Be De Jin Dan Nyam Jo Ju Bu Ge Chi Nim Bu Ju Lo San Gya We Tem Ba Gi Gyu Ji Ye Bu Sun Ge Lang Ge So Me So Nyu Zi Gyun Dan Nam Se Le Shin Ten Sun Dan Jin Ga Zi To Do Ge Lo San Gya We Tem Ba Gi Gyu Ji Do Na Pa Lin La Mi Ku Zi Ge Jun Den Jin Dan Be Sa Tin Gong Den Be Jin Dan Ma Dan Da Wa Yi Lo San Gya We Tem Ye Yu Chi Jiang Ju Zhen Jo Rinpo Che Ma Ge Pa Na Ye Yu Ji Kya Pa Nyam Me Ba Ye Kong Ne Kong Awai Shoi Kanri Rawe Korwe Shingan Pendan Dewa Malu Chongwe Chenre Zewa Tenzin Gyatso Yi Shape Site Bat Tenjuro Eji Tuzu Chanjin Jangun Gawe Tingyang Bewe Kunzu Tobo Ze Chozo Kuwe Le Tudu Pa Taso Tuje Gun Shabden Jo Sangye Temba Tawa Tan Tenzin Gyu Shape Tendro Gun Degi Jungwa Nega Tatu Tendro Sho Jamba Pao Jita Kemba Tan Kundu Zambo Tiyanti Deda Gungi Jesu Dalo Jegewa Dit Tamche Rabtu Ngoa Tuzun Shepi Gyawa Tamje Ki Ngoa Kala Chotu Ngapa Tagi Gewe Zawa Digun Yanzambo Cheche Rab Awa Gi Chugi Gyabo Songa Be Jesu Namba Pawa La Gi Zema Shewa 顿言马六藏瓦说大当心也特尊 Gawe so ni la ten Gawa Lozan Gaba Temba Yuring Ba Yuruji Mi Me Sewe Te Chin Chin Jime Kembe Wumbu Jome
산인의 롭장 가가 차버려 봐.
Lowlated.
산인의 롭장 가가 차. 등상은 주주 두벌 초고로 봐.
No.
주등갑을 총 같이 그래.
The Chichen is Kalakabi incident. The Kashita Lake chain and the Kiki was.
그래.
You cause the kitchen chico.
개발면은 두바 초. 가서 나와 초. 개발 연안에 답시해요 말해. 예매 때문에 타가래. 자자 제백을 네 쪽에서 네고 연하면. 자자 데들이 네 쪽에서 네고 연하면. 네고 이게 말이 말아.
No, the Tondanimeshi the judiciary.
다 단다 유대시를 해.
No.
산이 꿀이 말아.
No.
예. 유대시 알레 차를 해.
No.
오.
No.
말다. 가상님의 자신은 산이네. 이제
Kunri kaptu the shagya the.
Oh yeah. Oh good news. Yeah. We are tomorrow start Judeshi.
Yes.
어떤 다.
The 주정 나바기 계셔디 the 산이네 the 주디시네 the 산이네.
지금 주정가바샤단 초고 스마트도. 마신다 그렇게면 야 산이를 지네. 경고로 문제 주주 구반에 양직 승구도 달람기네. 이 지도 뒤인데 아니 먼저 주제 나반의 처나 조바제 눈발 차도로 주주니로 아니 주주 눈다 차가네 주주 구바체 승주디 양 달람는 녀녀이나 콜이야 발제매봐.
In general, and then it would be so.
Then bed 걸 못하는 거 샵. 주저 마반이.
We can do.
그래.
No.